Ever since the Supreme Court repealed Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision in 2022, there has been a spike in hospitals refusing to treat pregnant women who come to the emergency room with pregnancy-related emergencies. The Associated Press has done a terrifying study that should scare every single woman in America. I'm just going to read a little bit from this AP report. One woman miscarried in the lobby restroom of a Texas emergency room, the restroom, as front desk staff refused to check her in. Another woman learned that her fetus had no heartbeat at a Florida hospital the day after a security guard turned her away from the facility. And in North Carolina, a woman gave birth in a car after an emergency room couldn't offer an ultrasound. The baby later died. This is the post-Roe reality across this country in the red states that have enacted abortion bans, many of which are zombie bills from the 19th century, like the one in Arizona, that have locked women out of healthcare. It's an absolutely terrifying reality that we now face in this country, particularly in states governed by Republicans. Here is this quote that should send a chill down every woman's spine, or any man that cares about women's spine in this country. They are so scared of a pregnant patient that the emergency medicine staff won't even look. They just want these people gone. This is the world that Samuel Alito and his friends on the Supreme Court have created. And this is the world they want. And what we're seeing in these red states is not just hospitals too scared to treat pregnant patients that come in with emergencies. We're talking about no fetal heartbeat. We're talking about ectopic pregnancies, women who are bleeding out in the bathroom and calling 911 to get an ambulance to come to the hospital in the hospital emergency room and take them to another hospital willing to treat them. Women who are having to drive hundreds of miles out of state because they have an emergency pregnancy or because they're a rape or incest victim who just do not want to give birth. This is the world they want for us. This is the world Republicans have created for us. And it is the world they want. And they don't just want it in red states. They want this nationwide. Ladies of America, women voters of America, is this good enough for you? Many of these laws were enacted in the 19th century when women did not have the right to vote, when slavery was still legal, and when women were, for all intents and purposes, the property of their fathers until they passed into the hands of their husbands, whose property they became. And of course, they're trying to get rid of no-fault divorce because they don't want you to be able to get out of a marriage that isn't serving you and where you might be abused. And that's not all. The religious right, the Christian right, and I'll put the Christian in scare quotes because they're essentially Christian nationalists, white Christian nationalists, if we want to be very specific. They don't want you to have access to birth control. They are limiting access to IUDs in red states like Missouri. They are putting women in 6-week abortion bans when most women don't even know they're pregnant in states like Florida and Georgia, where Brian Kemp has completely gotten away with it, and Iowa. They're doing total abortion bans in some states, including in Missouri, looking at doing penalties for women, including throwing women in jail for murder if they try to get an abortion. They're making it illegal or very difficult for you to get out of state. In Texas, they passed a law that would allow anyone to sue anyone who helps a woman go and get an abortion. So the Uber driver could be sued. They're trying to close off every opportunity and every avenue for women to make choices about their own reproductive health and their own lives because they don't believe women are equal. They don't believe women have any rights. They believe women have no fundamental rights that are not given to them by men. They want back the world of the 19th century when men ruled women with absolute power. And I'm talking to you, white women, because Black women are not their concern. They don't care how many Black women die in childbirth. They don't care about increasing the Black population of the United States. This is about outrunning the population increases caused by migration. And I'm not talking white migration from Europe. I'm talking brown migration. Yet white women still vote overwhelmingly, at least 6 in 10, 55% some odd, for the very Republicans who are stripping them of their rights. Women of color already vote overwhelmingly for the party who does believe that women should have rights. So this is not about partisanship at this point. This is about survival. Because I hate to break it to you if you're in a blue state, but they want your rights gone too. And they don't even have to pass a national abortion ban. There's another 19th century law called the Comstock Act that's already on the books. It's another one of these zombie laws that's just not been being enforced. But the Comstock Act makes it illegal to transport products or any devices that could cause abortion across state lines. That would make mifepristone illegal instantaneously without a national ban. And even if the Supreme Court doesn't strike down the FDI approval of mifepristone, it could theoretically make IUDs illegal. They want birth control to be illegal. IUDs, the pill, they could get rid of all of it just by having an HHS secretary appointed by a Republican president, ergo Donald Trump, who turns the Department of Health and Human Services into the Department of Life, as they've spelled out in their Project 2025 is what they want to do, the Department of Life, and then just have that HHS secretary start enforcing the Comstock Act and having the Department of Justice start enforcing the Comstock Act. They could put doctors in jail for prescribing RU486, mifepristone. What about the morning after pill? You think they want you to have that? This is about power, and it is about having absolute power over women and over women's lives. This is not about babies. This is not about babies. They're passing like laws to allow child labor. The state of Louisiana just passed a law allowing them to deny child laborers lunch breaks. That just went through. It's not passed into law yet, but it's already passed the relevant House committee. If that passes the House and then the Senate, and you know that Republican governor will sign it. So this is not about babies or kids. They don't even want kids to have preschool or school lunch. This is about controlling women. Arizona is the most sort of outrageous one that we've seen in recent memory, but that's not going to be the only one. There are 6-week abortion bans in states like Iowa and Georgia, where Brian Kemp has completely gotten away with it. There's a 6-week abortion ban going into effect any day now in Florida. The entire South is behind a wall of a lack of access to health care. And what's also happening in these red states is that OBGYNs are fleeing. Women aren't going to have access to any reproductive health care, even if they're not trying to get pregnant and they just need a pap smear, because OBGYNs are leaving, and students who are graduating from medical school in these red states are getting the hell out of there. They don't want to practice in a state where they could go to prison for giving someone a DNC, which is a standard medical procedure, because they had an ectopic pregnancy. Women are going to die. They're already dying. And there's something we can do about it. We have to use our vote, and we have to vote in these state house elections. Every single state house election matters this election cycle. Every governor's race matters. Every Senate race matters. Every House race matters. And yes, the presidential race matters, because all up and down that ballot are opportunities for you to hold these Republicans to account for stripping us of not just our rights, but our basic human dignity. No woman should have to bleed out in an emergency room bathroom because the staff is too afraid to treat her, because they're afraid of some schmuck Republican politician who thinks that he's acting in the name of God. This is not God's work. This is not God's will. These are men who want power over you. Wake up. For the love of God, women of America. And I'm talking to you, white sisters, because Black women are already voting the way they need to vote to keep our power. And brown women, you need to vote in higher numbers, but in numbers, they're still voting in the way that they need to keep their power. But white women are still voting with the men who are trying to incarcerate you in the stirrups. We still have an opportunity to fix this, to reverse it, but we've got to wake up. There's a huge election in November. It's so important. Wake up and stay woke. Be safe out there. One love. And by the way, this is not about partisanship. This is about a party that's been taken over by religious fanatics, and it has to be broken before it can be fixed. We need a strong Republican Party, but not like this. Let's move them out of power and then let that party be fixed. Peace out.
No, ma'am. The truth is, for the past few decades, white women have been giving over our rights to the white patriarchy. Every time they got into the voting booth for the past few decades, they have signed over the rights of white women, of black women, of Latino women, of Asian women. They have signed over the rights of all women. Every time they went into that voting booth and voted to put a Republican in office. These men are stealing our rights. White women gave up all of our rights. And they're going to get mad. They're going to get down in the comments section saying, not me, not I've done this, I've done that. The truth, the numbers prove it, is that white women, every time they went into the voting booth, they voted for Republican white men. They gave over all of our rights. I couldn't wait for my work day to end so I can come out and plant some flowers. I planted these little baskets. They were going to hang from these poles right here, but they're too heavy. I have to do something similar, but on a smaller scale, because these are just too heavy for those poles. And I don't waste my time to try to communicate with willfully obtuse individuals. Maybe somebody will come across the video and educate you, but I'm pretty sure you're being disingenuous, so they may not waste their time with you either.